Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. It is unfortunately actually quite rare for large global watch brands to listen to their customer base. It is even rarer therefore to listen to them twice. But that is what Hamilton have done with the Murph. The Hamilton Murph watch started life as a prop in Christopher Nolan's 2014 sci-fi epic Interstellar. The watch is so called because it was given to Mackenzie Foy's character Murph by her father Cooper, played by Matthew McConaughey. The watch actually goes on to play a prominent role. In fact, it's a pivotal role in the plot. If you haven't seen the film, it's highly recommended. You should definitely check it out for yourself. Now, Hamilton are masters at product placement in movies, with their watches having featured in literally hundreds of different films. But this time was slightly different because the Murph started out purely as a prop. However, the demand from fans of the brand and fans of the movie was so great that in 2019, Hamilton issued the watch on general release. I reviewed it in early 2021. It's a great watch, the 42mm, but the size was a little large for a lot of people. The diameter was reasonable, but the lug-to-lug was 52mm. Now here is a wrist shot on my average size wrist. I thought it was too big for me, and it seems I was not alone. But now Hamilton answered the prayers of another crop of Interstellar fans by releasing the Murph in a 38mm form factor case. What is the lug-to-lug? Stay tuned to find out. Big thank you to my good friend and business partner Mr. P. He picked up one of these recently. I'll leave a couple of links to this one in the description of the video. Now, these are not cheap, so any deal you can get on one is a good deal. Let's flip the camera and have a look at it. All right, let's try and keep it brief today, famous last words, as this one is all about the dimensions and the wrist shot. Let's get straight to those as soon as we can. I will show you a split screen of the 42 and the 38 on my wrist in a couple of minutes, but before we even get into the box, let's talk price. I told you it wasn't cheap. It's not. $895 USD is the Hamilton RRP for this one, for a three-hander on a leather strap. You can take a couple of hundred off that if you're prepared to go grey with JOMASHOP. However, they don't even have stock at the moment. But you think that's bad? Wait till you see the Aussie price. 1,500 Aussie is the RRP over here. That one stings. I'll leave a link to Vincent at WMADA. He'll take a couple of hundred off that, as you can see here. But yeah, you still need to think long and hard about how this one fits into your collection, because you're paying over $1,000 Aussie for it, even with a deal. But if you do buy it from an official AD, you at least get a 2-year international warranty and a pointlessly large instruction manual. You also get a beautifully simple and beautiful little watch. There was a reason that fans were clamoring for this one to be released. It is absolutely stunning. Now, 42, 38, you probably already know which camp you belong to. Leave me a comment, let me know. I've now tried both on my wrist. Yeah, this is the one for me. 1,500 Aussie though for one of the more affordable members of the Swatch group. Yeah, not that affordable these days. There we are. That is the impossible to remember Hamilton reference number H70405730, 38mm sapphire crystal and automatic movement. But what a wee honey this watch is. Look at that. I think the proportions are perfect. There's just the right amount of bezel for the case. The crown is just a great size. The hands are the right length. The numerals on there are also perfectly in proportion to the rest of the watch. And I think this is going to be the one that most people go for in terms of size, not just me. So dimensions then, 38mm in diameter as discussed. Now, even the larger watch was not a thick watch, and neither is this one. 11.4mm thick, but look at that lug to lug. You know it's going to be compact, and it is 44.4. 20mm between the lugs, 100 meters of water resistance from a push-pull crown. That is double domed sapphire crystal, so it manages to keep under 11.5, even using a piece of double dome. Now, they claim there is some anti-reflective coating there. Perhaps there is some, perhaps there is not quite enough. The movement in the back though is a Hamilton in-house caliber. It's an H10. And there it is. I say in-house because, of course, Hamilton are owned by the Swatch Group, as are ETA, who manufacture this particular movement. So all part of the same umbrella. Now, this H10, I think, is one of the better versions of this movement. It's all based on an ETA 2824. However, this one does have the Nevacron hairspring, but it doesn't have the synthetic escapement. So generally thought to be a little more reliable than those. Powermatic 80s with the synthetic escapement. So this one, 80-hour power reserve. They have slowed the beat rate down from 28,800 vibrations per hour to 21,600 vibrations per hour. So the sweep of the second hand is not quite as smooth, but it does mean that you can take this watch off on a Friday afternoon, having worn it all week, put it back on your wrist on a Monday morning, and it's still ticking. It's still set at the right time. 25 joules, hacking and hand winding. Obviously, not a lot of decoration. There's the Hamilton logo there and a reasonably attractive semi-skeletonized rotor. But that's your lot. Similarly, the case finish is as simple as the finish on the movement. Really nice fine brushing on the mid case though, circular brush on the upper lugs, and high polish fixed bezel, nicely integrated piece of sapphire. And yeah, that crown, vintage unguarded crown, again the Hamilton logo features on that one. It's almost a shame that they made this an auto. It would be such a great watch to have as a manual wind because that crown, great size, very tactile. Now, the leather strap, according to the warranty card, Mr. P has had this one for about 2 months, so the strap definitely needs a little bit more breaking in. It is stiff. I've had a few Hamiltons myself in the past, and the straps have always been pretty stiff. Kind of semi-embossed, top section there, and very nice stitching. You can see they have colour matched the stitching with the Fotina numerals and hands on the dial. Plenty of holes, so I reckon from a 6 1/4 inch up to a 7 1/2 inch, I'm kind of there. I've got 3 holes to go, as you'll see in a minute, and nice brushed silver hardware with the Hamilton logo, matching the Hamilton logo on the dial. Not quick release though. I know Mr. P has been wearing this one on a paler brown strap to kind of bring out the colours in the dial. He told me under no uncertain terms that I was to be very careful that I didn't scratch the lug swapping the strap back and forth. Dial and hands, you've been looking at them for a while now, I suppose, but let's give them a specific mention. Very simple, just a printed dial, Hamilton logo and khaki automatic. This is part of the khaki field watch range, and it does have that lovely clean field watch aesthetic. No date on this dial. I think a date would have ruined it by removing either the 3 or the 6 of those Arabic numerals. The numerals themselves also printed on, just beautiful. Now, Fotina, some people aren't going to be into it, but hey, that's how the watch looked in the movie, so that is legit. And I like the cathedral hands. I don't mind cathedral hands. They don't feature on watches all that often, but those ones just perfectly proportioned. Look at the syringe tip pointing at the 10. Look at the syringe tip pointing to the minute track. Out there with those 1/3 of a minute markers. Just a needle second hand, no lume on the second hand, but there is some lume on the main hands and on the dial, as I'll show you in just a minute. Really simple, really clean, and still really easy to read, even in this smaller form factor case. And there we are, the proof of the pudding today is in the wrist shot, as they say. That looks great on my 7-inch wrist. Now let's bring in the split screen from my old review from 2021. That 42mm is just sitting on top and completely dominating my wrist, almost overhanging because of the 52mm lug to lug, whereas this one sitting pretty with that super compact 44mm lug to lug. Yeah, I think for most people, this little guy is the one to go for. Legibility is still pretty good. As I said, I'm not convinced that there's enough AR coating. I'll bring in some outdoor shots in a minute or two. You tell me what you think. Fotina doesn't necessarily help with legibility, but in this case, because it's just on a black dial and because the hands have white surrounds today, I think that really helps. I still think this one is pretty legible given its size. It's still a field watch at its core after all. But I am going to complain about a couple of things, starting with the Lume. You knew this was coming. Printed dial, old radium style Fotina Lume. It looks okay initially. It's got that nice retro radium colour, oddly enough, but when I turn the speed up, the indices, the printed sections of the dial disappear pretty quickly in the hands. Not long afterwards, to be honest. So yeah, legibility's okay during the day, but not so good at night time. And as I said, they claim some AR coating under that crystal, but there's never enough on Hamiltons. There's an awful lot of flecto there. You can quite clearly see my camera more than you can see the dial, to be honest, so definitely in the moans and niggles section today. And the RRPs are really getting up there. I praised Hamilton in the intro for releasing this watch based on fan demand, but believe me, they did it because of capitalism and not altruism. You can buy the watch, but you're gonna pay for it if you do want it. But if you are a fan of the film, or you're just a fan of beautiful looking, really simple field watches with a retro flavour, this Hamilton Murph should definitely be on your shopping list. Just try and get yourself a bit of a deal on it if you can. So there you have it, definitely the Murph to buy if you don't have big wrists or enjoy big watches. That case size is now pretty much perfect as far as I'm concerned. What is not perfect though is the lack of anti-reflective undercoating, and it is by no means cheap for what you're actually getting. But for a beautiful watch with a cracking contemporary backstory, I don't think it's unreasonable. If you think 38mm is for small children, click here to watch my review of the 42mm version. If you think 38mm is actually quite large, click here to watch my review of the Hamilton khaki field instead. Well done for making it all the way to the end. I'll see you again in the next one.